Welcome to the Remember Your Nature podcast. Before we begin, I want to call upon the muses of the divine feminine, all of the grandmothers, all of the beings, the sirens, the goddesses, those that were once revered and had cathedrals and temples built for them. May they be here with us as we have this conversation. Today I'm talking about something that is intimately connected with the fabric of my identity and who I am today, and how I have been able to feel so much peace and so much power in my life, which is remembering my cyclical nature and remembering cyclicality. I have been intimately tracking and moving with my menstrual cycle and the different phases and stages within each cycle for a few years now. And it has been a complete reorientation of my psyche, of my relationship with my body, and of how I have created my life so that I can strategically and intelligently move and live in accordance with my natural hormones, my hormonal cycle, but also my spiritual blueprint of evolution, of death and rebirth every single month. And really learning how to leverage this phenomenon that happens within my biological body as a way to evolve myself and as a way to connect deeper to the innermost truth of my being. Living cyclically was something that I really had to learn, especially because we live in a sun-oriented, sun-worshiping culture. Now, that just means that all of our systems and the way that we have constructed of how life should be and how it should go in our society is built from the patriarchal paradigm. Now, the patriarchal paradigm is just an objective reality that we live in right now. And we all have the responsibility to dissect and to understand how this paradigm, which is rooted in the suppression of feminine power, affects every single part of our society and affects our psyche, our beliefs, and therefore the actions that we take in the world profoundly. And so we all have the responsibility to decolonize, de-indoctrinate our minds. And patriarchy has a lot to do with colonization and not even just the suppression of women, but also the suppression and subjugation of people of color, of those in minority, those that are more connected to spiritual earth-based practices. And there's a lot of resource. There's so much work on this, and I understand it in the way that I understand it, but I would really encourage you to do your own research and to first and foremost start to dissect and understand how these larger forces and the evolution of thinking and the evolution of these larger forces that affect our society are affecting you, and come to your own conclusions. Come to your own experiences. And I feel like this is the crux of this work too, of like radical liberating work, is to learn how to take what other people say with a grain of salt and to learn how to feel into what feels most true and resonant for you in your own body, underneath biases and underneath a lot of stuck, conditioned beliefs and energy that may be inhibiting you from really fully connecting to what is true. It's really important to learn and understand how to feel truth in our bodies and how to trust that. And so we fear what we don't understand. And as the feminine principle, the feminine energy, this sacred feminine experience of life that permeates through everything, that has been written about and spoken about for centuries in the spiritual texts and in embodied spiritual practice, this has been so cut off and cut out of us that we fear because we don't understand it. And so I want to come back a little bit and share a bit about my story. So, I've learned how to have a lot of success in the patriarchal paradigm. And the patriarchal paradigm is just kind of this like 9 to 5 being the same every single day, which for men is a very beneficial way of moving because that reflects the hormone cycle, the natural hormone cycle of biological men and individuals that were born male at birth. And I also thought that I had to be the same every single day. And I found a lot of success in doing that. It's not that I couldn't be successful in that way of moving. And I am specifically speaking about my time in college. I've always been an extremely hard worker, and I've always been extremely disciplined and diligent and organized, and have had, just like 3-hour morning routines every single morning without fail, would go to bed at like 9:30, 10 every single night without fail, because that made me feel safe and in control, because there was so much going on. And I felt that if I stepped out of any routine or any of that structure that I created for myself, I would not be able to handle it. And when you have a lot going on and a lot to balance and a lot to juggle, I'm not saying that having like a daily routine or having that like, consistent structure isn't helpful. However, I was operating from this place and I had so much shame and fear that I was operating out of. And I thought that like having a good life and being a good human being meant that you only dwelled in the light, that you only felt light things and you kept yourself away from anything that would trigger anything that is not light. And so being really disciplined and showing up every single day really served me in being successful in my life. And I was always the top of my class, straight A student, graduated summa cum laude, was all the things, dot, 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 because of my discipline and because of this rigid structure that I put on myself. However, I did not give myself any chance to die. I did not allow myself or give myself any chance to allow myself to fall apart. And I think I really started to connect to this ability to die and to shift and to release identities when I went through a heartbreak. And then also when I started to go through ceremony and I started to attend and participate in ceremony. And I had these embodied experiences of looking at the more deep, complex, and dark parts of myself. And then actually have some sort of energetic shift that shifted my way of seeing and understanding the world. And that necessitated me to connect to my own sense of grief. Like before heartbreak, before ceremony, before coming into my spiritual journey, I never grieved. I never cried. And I was actually really congested by sickness and candida in my body, and probably like glyphosate and a bunch of chemicals. And I was so toxified in like my physical body that I felt very numb. Also in my culture growing up and in my family and in the people around me, it was never modeled like feeling your emotions and dealing with your grief in a way that's healthy, and regularly crying and regularly emoting, not even emoting like joy and happiness and beauty, but also emoting like sacred anger and grief and feeling frustrated and feeling what injustice feels like and what that feels like in the body. And so I just didn't really have a relationship with the darkness at all. And when I started to feel really good and get on my spiritual journey, then I really started to feel trapped in the high because I didn't know how to integrate any of the darkness and recognize and understand that the darkness is literally there so that I will be able to shift my identities. So I'll be able to connect to more truth within myself. So I'll be able to metabolize all of that darkness and change the stories, change the beliefs, and create more life and more empowerment. But of course, that's something that you have to understand as you just go through the journey, as I just went through the journey. And then I started to become attuned to the fact that I'm actually different, that there's actually something really special and powerful about this thing that happens to me every single month, which is my menstrual cycle. While as before, I just thought that my menstrual cycle was really this inconvenience that was happening in my life. It made me feel terrible. I had horrible cramps. And so I would just take ibuprofen and I would, put in a tampon and I would just continue to be the same every single day. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that this is a bad or a good thing. But I think there's just a deeper conversation and there's a deeper reflection and contemplation here of like, if we can perform at some level, trying to be the same and forcing ourselves to be the same like every single day, like what could really happen if we could integrate the fact that if we follow the way that we are naturally designed and organized to live, which is cyclically, like the power and the potential and the life and vitality that we get to have through that. Like I'm interested in that. I feel like, okay, we've been doing it the same and we've been trying to do it like biological men can do it. And yes, we maybe have learned how to leverage that to find success in our life of like, having a good career and creating money and all the things. But also as women, as a society in this modern industrialized, and I'm speaking about the United States, like where are we in our womanhood? And for me, what I have discovered within my own self and also what I have reflected or what I have seen, as I've been collecting evidence in the world, is that we're really afraid of one another. There is a great sense of competition between women and really that it really inhibits us from seeing and loving one another, and that really inhibits us from encouraging one another and receiving the fucking lifeblood sustenance that comes through sisterhood. We feel that our worth is based on what we perform or how we perform and what we put out. And we will push and push and push way past our body's capacity. I think we've really learned how to completely shut off our feelings, our feeling bodies, our intuition, and our feeling selves as women and individuals born female at birth. Our level of intuition, and this is for all beings as well, we are all intuitive beings, but our level of fucking intuition is so insane, but also like so necessary for us to really feel into what's happening in the world that we inhabit. Our intuition is so important to create relationships with the world around us, with other beings and with the natural earth. And so I see this distrust of the body, this distrust of intuition, and this just like complete living inside the head and complete construction of identity that is originated inside the mind. So we think that we are our thoughts, and we think that we are these identities that we have formed through our thoughts, which has been, so intimately influenced by these larger structures such as patriarchy, such as colonialism, such as imperialism, which are structures based on separation and based on exploitation. And so I see this, and then I also see this fear of the masculine and fear of the men, and not just like physical men, but also this like this this sense that, like, I either have to be hyper independent to be successful, because I feel like there is this unworthiness of being able to receive. And that is also really something tragic that I witness, is I feel this in all beings. Without the presence of the divine feminine within ourselves, of that yin feeling and energy within ourselves, we really feel like unable to receive love and to receive beauty, and not even unable, but we will self-sabotage ourselves from anything good because we feel unworthy and unable to hold receive that blessing, those blessings that coming into our lives. And being able to receive the beauty in life is what makes life worth living. It is what makes us willing to fight for something. It is what makes us willing to stand up for what's right, because we can receive the value and the beauty. And if we cannot receive the value and the beauty because we cannot receive it within our own selves, then we're just going to continue on a path towards death, and towards more separation, and towards more exploitation, because we are so numb to life. We are so numb to the miracle that is this life that we get to experience. And I truly believe that connecting to the feminine aspect gets us there, will provide us the ability to feel and to be able to hold in love and compassion, and to create unity, because we have an embodied sense of connection with ourselves, with all of the sentience around us. And I would like to say that this isn't, this move of men against women. And I know men and women is a very nuanced thing. But this is about integration. This isn't about just using the same energy as the patriarchy to say, fuck all men, and women are the ones that need to be in power, and that we don't need men. I believe that women need to be in power. We need to have a lot more women in power, and we need to listen to feminine leadership that is rooted in deep earth-based wisdom. We need our council of wise elders in our leadership. But this is about integration. The divine feminine is all about connection. It is about bridging, bringing us together. And I believe that masculine energy is super important. This masculine energy, or the other side of the coin, is really important and powerful energy, and we need that energy to have forward moving momentum and to build. But the feminine, she's our compass. She shows us where to direct that energy. This is how I understand it. And when I understand existence in this way, it makes a lot of sense for me. And I would also like to say that patriarchy and the unchecked, or more specifically, the unchecked, unintegrated masculine, uninitiated masculine, it easily lends itself to apathy, exploitation, and subjugation, conquest, war, and genocide, which is literally exactly what we're seeing in the, quite frankly, fucking insanity that's happening in our world. That when you like really take an examining eye to it, just seems like not even real, of how much horror and how much disconnection and disregard for life there is happening right now. And like, what do we do about that? Because when we also live in a culture that is so afraid of anything dark and we have lost our reverence for the darkness. We have lost our reverence for the winter time. We're always trying to be summer all the time. We're trying to chase this endless summer. And we have lost as a society and a culture, or we have forgotten, I will say, not lost. It can be easily remembered through experience and through contemplation how important it is to come to stillness and to go underneath the earth again and to connect to the transformation that happens when we are a seed waiting to be germinated, and to remember the beauty of death and the transition that that is towards more life and more birth. And without this, without having tools to be able to understand the nervous system, tools to be able to understand the importance of emotionality and the full spectrum of humanness, as a culture and a society, this results in us kind of having an infantile ability to navigate the experience of human emotionality. And so we're so afraid then of our own power, and we're so afraid of other human beings who are so free and so sovereign and so expressed and can't be put into a box, and we don't really understand them, and they're crying and dancing in public, and they're feeling outraged about something, some injustice that they're witnessing, and they're loving someone that is the same biological sex as them, or they don't feel like they resonate with the biological sex that they have been given, or they feel an erotic connection to nature, or they literally are, brought to their knees when contemplating a placenta, where they don't work when they bleed, where they tell other people that they are stepping away from the world so that they can enter into the sacred temple that happens to them every single month. And then they step out into the world after that death with more freedom. And they are, we call them brave, but they just feel embodied, empowered to just be exactly who they are. And we look at these people and we judge them. And we have resistance towards them because they are triggering something within us that I believe, secretly all really fucking want, which is just to be free, which is just to be expressed. And the truth is that when we allow ourselves to be initiated, when we go through our rites of passages, when we allow ourselves to enter into ceremony, we enter into the temple, then we get to give ourselves a chance to release all energy that is inhibiting us from feeling unconditional love and witnessing and experiencing the unconditional love and safety that has been our birthright ever since we entered and became 3D reality in the womb. That level of safety and nourishment that we experienced in the womb, which is something we experience that can never be taken away from us. Every single human being, and every single being went through a specific gestation process in their own way. We were all first brought into this physical 3D reality in the womb, nourished by our mothers. So safe, so taken care of. And that is an experience that we have been given that has never left us, that we have the ability to come back to enter into the womb and to feel safe enough to then continue to shift the energy that inhibits us from unconditional love and compassion towards ourselves and towards other beings. We need to create solutions in this world born from a different, more evolved paradigm than the paradigm the issues were created in. And if so, we're trying to just do the same things to create different, more life-serving solutions without changing the fabric of our identity structure and our belief system and the way that we think the world is. We're never going to create regenerative, sustainable change, which is what we fucking need. Which is what we need. Because if we don't, we are literally on a path towards death. That is how consequential it is for us to attune to the truth of our own being. To be able to connect to the sanctity of life again. And it just starts here. Because patriarchy, colonialism, imperialism, whatever like the physical label of the structure is, the energy is that there's a separation from us and God, and that we are wicked and we are unworthy and we are unholy, and the things of the earth and of the body are to be mistrusted and are unholy. So of course we're going to think that we are also wretched, that we are not deserving of feeling redeemed right now in our hearts. That there was actually nothing wrong with us. And we have so much capacity for love and to receive love and to receive beauty in the world. To see our own value, to see our own light and our own beauty, and then to be able to go out in the world and to witness that and to reflect that in others, and to also be so rooted in our own sense of protection and valuing our energy and our life, protecting our own life, so that we allow people to have their own process too. And we also don't allow violence. We don't allow violence into our field, and we also see the injustice that violence is. And so then we take action as a community to be able to understand why violence is happening, so that we can come together and create solutions with the intention and from the vibration of love. From the vibration of wanting to heal, seeking to heal. Because when we're connecting to unconditional love and we feel this love and we feel this wholeness within ourselves, we can hold a true, authentic ability to go out into the world with the intention to heal. Not the intention to heal other people, but allowing just by our being and by our presence and by our level of awareness and mindfulness and our ability to see someone else as me, and we seek to heal, then we build, we're building community, we're building systems, we are putting out work, we are creating, bringing an energy into the world that will inevitably ripple out towards healing, towards remembrance of wholeness and beauty and goodness. And this is so my truth. This is so what I truly believe. And it is a lighthouse for me to continue to show up and to do the work and to look at myself really clearly and to be so truthful with what I see, and to be so truthful when I'm victimizing myself, meaning when I am blaming something outside of myself for my ability to show up, for my ability to show up in love. Because I know it's my responsibility to show up. It's my responsibility to be truthful with what I see within myself and to be truthful with how my actions are affecting the world. And I am no way saying that I am perfect. I still buy things on Amazon. I drive a car. I don't recycle some things, or I don't go through my recycling. I still very much live in the system. And I think that it's really hard to completely disconnect ourselves from the system. And sometimes we do feel like we have to have those rigid routines to just keep everything in line, to feel like we have some control, because if not, like, it's actually going to be really overwhelming to allow myself to fall apart. And I totally understand. And I would like to reflect that my journey is really unique. And right now, I live in a family that loves me so much and that allows me to live at home and to do this work. And I understand that just it may not be viable for people to take off work and bleed. But I also believe that this knowledge and this information is so important. And when it is really felt, it really starts to be integrated. Because when I first learned and had a different perspective of my menstrual cycle, it took me years to be able to like really start to understand like what does it mean that I'm at the height of my power when I'm bleeding? Because my whole life I've had this one relationship with my menstrual cycle, and societally it's this very negative and taboo thing. It's seen as gross and disgusting and something that should be put away. And we're really afraid of menstrual blood. We're really afraid of what's going on in our womb and yoni space. And most of us are actually really, I feel, uneducated with the female body and the female reproductive system. Yeah, and there is a lot to say on that, and so many resources and so much out there that really relays the information of the evolution of why, we have so much fear of the female biological body. But I believe that having this perspective in the world is such medicine, and it has been such medicine for me. And something that I read in the book Wild Power was that even if you can't, take off to bleed, just do 1% less. What if we moved 1% in the direction towards the sacred? What if just slowly we start to metabolize this information, and 1% of our perception of the world begins to change more towards reverence, towards awe. We are 1% able to receive the beauty of this earth and of one another. And not even just the obviously beautiful things, but what if 1% we could receive the beauty of our own darkness? We see the beauty of maggots eating a carcass alive. We see the beauty of a symptom arising in our bodies because we know that that's information, and that's giving us power to make a choice that will be more life-giving to our system. So I really believe in the potency of this information. It doesn't mean that you have to change your whole life tomorrow. That's, I feel like, so integral to feminine wisdom and to the cyclical way, is that we integrate in spirals and in cycles. So it's not going to be that we get this information and we integrate it and our entire life has changed. It's like we gain information and then we chew on it, and then we have to allow some part of our identity to die and to dissolve, to make new space for this new identity that's being informed by this new information that's really resonating with us, so that we have an expanded perspective that's more birth, that's more life. But to create more life, we have to continue to chew on and authentically and be truthful with the ways that different parts of ourselves have to release, to make space for what's really true for us. What's really true for us is an interesting question to ask. What is really true for me is an interesting question to ask. And it's something that I have been asking myself. And these beliefs that I'm holding on to, that I'm operating out of, that I'm taking action out of, is it really mine? Is it really mine? Have I really sat with it? Have I really been present with the way that that belief and that identity that I hold sits in my body? Where is that belief coming from? Now, how do we do this? For me, I've learned how to allow myself to consciously die and integrate my shadow through ceremony, through having like really intense life experiences and having to step up and just embrace life for what it is. But mostly through utilizing my menstrual cycle, because it's something that's already here, that is inborn into me, that I have been given the gift of every single month having an opportunity to cleanse something and let something go to create more life. And if you're someone that doesn't have a menstrual cycle, who doesn't have a womb, there are so many ways to follow this cyclical nature for your own spiritual evolution. This could be following the phases of the moon. In a like macrocosmic way, you could be following the seasons of nature. Like allowing yourself to really embrace summer and to really embrace fall and to really embrace winter. But my menstrual cycle has been like probably the equivalent of the road to Damascus. Well, that was a pretty intense transformation that happened there. Or my menstrual cycle is like, sitting with ayahuasca every month. But I was told, okay, in ceremony, I was bleeding and I was in a ceremony, and I was told that I'm in the height of my power when I'm bleeding years ago. Okay, what does that mean? So then I started to just sit with that more, and I would just be a little bit more present with my bleed. And then I met this individual who is Lexi, the cycle witch. And I have gotten so much of my information from Lexi. And if you're wanting like more information about this and how to live cyclically, I highly recommend working with them and looking at their resources and what they have to recommend. But I met Lexi at a music festival where they did a cyclical living workshop. And Lexi was talking about the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle and how each affected us. And what really struck me was Lexi's energy. Lexi was fucking vibrating so high, and everything Lexi was saying was just ringing fucking true in my body. Like my body was responding so viscerally to this information that I knew that this was something, a thread that I needed to continue to follow. And there are four phases of the menstrual cycle. I'll just go into them quickly because there is so much information about this. But basically, the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle parallels the ways that our different hormones fluctuate throughout the month, which is based on the changes of the moon. And I honestly I'm not super attuned to how the moon is changing right now. And I think that will evolve, but I would like to reflect that too. Like I am just in the beginning of stages as like a young menstrual, a young woman where menstruality is a part of my existence. Like I'm still learning. Like I have not like cracked the code or uncovered everything. This is all just like a constant life process and learning. There's 4 seasons of the cycle. So first we begin with menstruation. And this can be considered winter. And so in the wintertime, if you're thinking about it, like traditionally on Earth, winter is like when you sleep all day and you're planning for your harvest. So like we have the highest level of creativity during this time. And like in my own embodied experience, I have an incredible amount of creativity during this time. Like things are just coming to me. Like I am literally not doing anything and I'm gaining so many downloads. I'm just literally existing, and I'm gaining so much wisdom when I consciously sit with it. And sometimes I will consciously sit with THC during this time or some sort of plant medicine, and I am just by myself. I'm present. I'm outside. I'm communing with the spirits, and I'm gaining so much wisdom. And I am like getting like big visions of like how I'm supposed to move forward in the world. It's really interesting because this is the whole point of a rite of passage. When you think traditionally in indigenous cultures, especially for like adolescent boys, when they would go out and have their big vision quest or medicine journey or plant medicine journey, or they would go out into the forest or all, combination of all of these. But the intention of a rite of passage traditionally is for you to meet. It's like you're meeting the monster in the hero's journey. And you're gaining all of this wisdom and you're gaining all of these visions so that you know how to best serve your community when you come back. There's some part of you that's changing and shifting and dying. You're crying for a vision so that you'll be able to move back and come back into the community and to be able to enact change and to use your life force energy in the way that's most aligned and most in integrity with what spirit is calling you forward to do with your unique talents and skills in your community. And so during menstruation, like, this is entering into the temple. And I really try to not, be with anyone during this time, and to really get quiet and have a stillness enough. And I would like to say that things have changed with my relationship with menstruation in terms of I've gotten stuck in the model of the menstrual cycle and how it's supposed to flow, which I will continue to explain. But when I first really got into it, something that Ram Dass says is like, first, you got to get stuck in the method. So you got to get stuck in the method of meditation or of yoga, and you have a great attachment towards doing those practices to achieve that God consciousness. But eventually you're able to like free yourself from the method. And I really had to get stuck in the method of menstruation first, or of the menstrual cycle, of cyclical living. So like, I would kind of mentally know exactly where I was in my cycle, and then I would kind of try to morph and change myself so that I could fit into like what I believed I should have done, or how I should have acted and oriented around that cycle. And so like, I also take so much inspiration from the Cycle Witch. And Lexi now, after like many years of, cyclical living, and cyclical living is what they teach. They take 5 days throughout the month to like completely shut, not working, not having clients, not having any social obligations that aren't necessary, and they just bleed. And I felt really inspired by that because it shows the value and the reverence of the bleed. But I would sometimes limit myself and inhibit myself from different like social interactions or something, because I felt that, well, I'm bleeding, so I can't do that, because I was kind of modeling myself. And I would like to say that there's nuance here, because like, I've spent so much time recreating my life to be conscious and to be full of love, and to like living in resonant places and spaces with people that are deeply loving and conscious. So like, if I didn't live in that, and I was like really in the matrix, and I was working a job where like everyone was, I'd say this lovingly, but asleep and very judgmental and very much not connected to love or connection, I feel that cutting myself off and really shutting myself away from that energy in my field is really important. But now I recognize that like, wait, everyone in my life is like really awesome, and also really reveres the womb, and we can have conversations like this, and it's actually can be nourishing for me to have connections during this time, especially with sisters. And I'm learning how to make my relationship more authentic instead of prescriptive, which I believe is just like a natural step in the journey as well. So this is a really sacred time that like, I can tell you from my own experience has absolutely changed my life, and has absolutely helped me integrate those dark, beautiful parts of myself that I have rejected, and that have been rejected by society at large, to connect me to my own sense of power and unconditional love. And not even that, like my own felt connection to God. Like, I have my own experiential connection to God, and my menstrual cycle and my time of menstruation just strengthens that, and also strengthens my knowing, and strengthens my intuition, and my experience of life. God isn't a belief of mine. God is a knowing of mine that can never be ripped away from me, and that's why we have been burned. That's why our voices have been suppressed, because that's really dangerous when you know that you would burn at the stake for your truth. Now, that takes a lot of courage. I'm not saying that I'm but I understand. I understand, because I see that this power that I have experienced, this love that I have seen, can never be taken away from me. because I have already seen what I have seen. I have already unconditioned what I have unconditioned. Like, I have already felt the truth of my being now, and it just gets deeper. So that's menstruation in my experience. Then we have the follicular phase. Now, this is a time characterized by spring. It's kind of this coming into this renewal in the world. And so, like, during menstruation, you kind of like are really letting go of identity and letting go of like all of these roles and all of these models that you have to play in the world, like this person that you have to be in the world. And it's it's an ego death, consciously and lovingly. It's like actually really amazing to not have to be a person in the world. So then you're planning for this upcoming month, or you're just gaining a lot of wisdom. Yeah, and so your follicular phase comes, and this is your spring, and your energy is starting to come more on the rise. But I like to think about it like you're becoming a person in the world again. So it can be a little bit of an awkward transition, and I have experienced that too, where you experience so much love and safety and grounding in that menstrual time, and then you like go out into the world, and then it can be a bit jarring. For me, if I go too fast and I try to like manifest those visions and take action based on what I've seen too fast, I can get a bit overwhelmed, and I can overstimulate my nervous system easily because of this. And so, yeah, this is a beautiful time of like feeling very playful and maybe like a little bit distracted. And there's a lot of things going on inside your brain, and you're just wanting to like dance and be fluid. So, yeah, this is like the follicular phase. And then ovulation comes, and now ovulation is like when we're at our peak energy, and this is like such a beautiful time to go out and to really be a person in the world and to really take action based on those visions that you've seen. And great time for like intense workouts, and for a lot of socializing, and for great sex, and for just moving really with a lot of strength and vigor and life, and like receiving a lot of pleasure, and just like having a lot of fun, and enjoying who you are in the world, enjoying your personality, and enjoying how other people are receiving you when you're really out and exuberant and high energy. It's a fun time. And then we then have the luteal phase, which is characterized by fall. And the luteal phase is a really important one, because this is really when we have the opportunity to see our shadows come up. Now, traditionally, when you think about like PMS or premenstrual symptoms, this can be a time that's really difficult for a lot of women. And then we start to vilify our cycle of like, oh yeah, I'm PMSing. This is like this horrible thing that's happening to me, and I hate it. But in my own experience, the luteal phase has become such a love, because I'm prepared to know that like my unconscious patterning is going to come up most likely, and that I am going to face my darkness, and I am going to feel icky, and I'm going to feel like, these uncomfortable, confronting sensations come up in my body. This is when like actual physical symptoms can come up, like tension can come up in my body. And I've learned how to just be present in it, because I know that I have to become it for it to be able to like shift, for it to be able to move and to heal. The luteal phase is a really important phase for our spiritual evolution if you are following your cycle like this. Because, and this is like not even if you're a menstruator, but just like in general, like when something comes up that's uncomfortable and confronting, and we're like noticing these like negative and habitual ways of thinking, and this is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to look at it and to shift it. When we become it and it comes up, we're being triggered for some reason, and we have the opportunity, instead of shaming it, ignoring it, trying to just force ourselves out of it, force ourselves to be okay, fix it, it doesn't mean that we're bad in any way. It means that there is an opportunity for us to shift. There's an opportunity for us to see things in a different light. There's an opportunity for us to just be a human and go through our emotions. Like lately, I've just allowed myself to be depressed. I've just allowed myself to be anxious. I've just allowed myself to feel the fear because I know that I have to feel it. And eventually it will go away. It will dissolve because it's just a changing sensation. And so this is such an opportunity for us to be able to feel and to allow the energy to move, allow it to dissolve so that we can create space for something new and something like equal and opposite. Like if you feel your depression, you will be able to feel your joy. When you allow yourself to like really create a relationship with that and to allow it to move through you and allow yourself to rest. Maybe it's not you're depressed. Maybe you really just need to rest. Maybe you really just need to slow down. Like I noticed that like sometimes when I feel depressed, it's just like I'm really needing to destimulate myself. I need to take myself away from the world. I need to take myself away from technology. I need to take myself away from the pressure of what I'm putting on, the pressure that I feel, to create and to move forward in a way that's life-serving. I have to let go of all of that and just lay down and close my eyes. And that's really serving for me. While as in a patriarchal paradigm that, values our output and our productivity as everything, we start to shame ourselves when we aren't productive. But like, what if I said that laying down and resting is one of the most productive things you can do, in my opinion, in a way that's balanced and in integrity with the natural order of things. So this is a really important phase, and I highly, I highly revere it and see its beauty and its value. And so this is the 4 phases of a menstrual cycle. And as I said before, when I first started to embody myself and embody this, in the ways that I could based on my life situation, I would get stuck in the method. And that's so normal and so natural. When we're just learning, it only makes sense that we try to really fit ourselves into these boxes so that we can feel into what it feels like to be in our luteal phase or to be in our follicular phase or to be in our ovulation. And I think that that's beautiful. But now, as years have gone by and I've continued to track, I've recognized that I was limiting myself a lot through my cycle. And I think that this also has to do with now I'm really integrating my own inner masculine energy. While as before I felt like, because I was bleeding that I couldn't do it, that, there was these actions that I wanted to take. Like I had all of these thoughts, all of this wisdom was coming to me, but I wasn't taking any action so that I could satisfy all of these thoughts of all these visions that I was having. And now I've been taking action because I've also been consciously working on integrating my own inner masculine so that I can create my own structure and my own stability and be my own leader and have my own kind of autonomous sense of like forward moving momentum and direction. And so now I see that when I am bleeding, before I used to just for literally like 2 weeks, and I also needed to go through this because there's also so much death happening in my life and detoxing my body. Every single cycle is different and there's no right and there's no wrong. This is just my experience and what I have learned. And, your experience is going to be yours. And this is something that the book Wild Power by the Red School, which I highly recommend if you want to learn more about this, they say that the big red rule is that every menstrual cycle is different. So what's going to be true for me may not be true for you. It might be, but it may not. So just like really take things, I really encourage you to take things with a grain of salt and allow your experience to be your own. But now I recognize that it's not that I can't, it's that I choose not to. It's not that I can't exercise during my bleed, or I can't work during my bleed, or I can't socialize during my bleed. It's that when I don't do those things, when I fully rest my muscles, when I completely just come into my own inner world and like really sit with myself and with God and with the messages that need to come through, when I allow myself to like relax and just like eat and like maybe watch some like nourishing movies and not having to be anyone in the world, when I come back into the world, I notice that I have so much to give. I have so much to give and I feel so well. And I feel that also so rooted in my own sense of love and truth that, I have so much love to give into the world. And I also am feeling so strong. Like every single time, I'm just gaining more power and more connection with God. So I'm less and less needing to be validated by other people because I know that I am like, I am divine. I am sacred. I am love. I am light. I am beauty. And that can never be taken away from me. And I'm so supported and so loved. Like I can close my eyes and transport myself back to the womb, and feel that and remember that feeling of safety and security. So like I do this because I can show up in the world with more strength and with more love and with more inspiration and more courage to like really take the action that needs to be taken to be able to create more life and to support and advocate for more life-serving systems and to really come to my own inner potential and create from that place. And to not even that serve the world, but also serve myself and to create a life that's full of beauty and abundance and living in a place that really resonates with me and having friendships and partners who really resonate with me, that we can all work together and create more life-serving systems together and to create more medicine that's life-serving and that's advocating for the beauty and the reverence of life. So it's really important for my own self too, so that I can create a life that I really love, that I really enjoy, that I don't feel like I'm struggling and suffering and, like being around toxic energy that it's not serving to me. So it's really that important, I believe. Yeah, and like one of the last things that I want to say is that cyclical living, and not even just if you're menstruating, but just witnessing the cycle of life is really teaching me about integration. So yes, like I do follow my cycle and I follow that like kind of macrocosmic during the month cycle. But I also notice now I'm starting to see the nuance and the subtlety of when I'm really following myself organically and naturally and witnessing myself organically and naturally without trying to stuff myself into any one way of being, that there is a natural cycle of experience that happens to me. Like usually when I feel like really high and really good and really full of life and love and I have like incredible like peak moment and experiences, I'm going to experience some crash. I'm going to experience some like depression or some low, feeling kind of to integrate that experience, because it's kind of starting from maybe a 5 and then I get to a 10 and then I have to like go to like a 1 or a 2 to then be able to come back to that, and but I'm also in that experiential cycle, I'm spiraling up. So I'm like increasing my nervous system's capacity for more love and for more beauty and for more goodness. But to do that, like I have to feel all of the things that are inhibiting me from being able to hold that within my system and within my body. And I'm really seeing how important integration is, especially before coming to conclusions and taking action. Like there's a level of integration we need when we're faced with new information, with a new way of seeing, with a new person who might mean something to us. There's like a really important time of contemplation and reflection and integration to like take that phenomenon with a grain of salt, to take it into ourselves, to metabolize it, and then to really like know in our integrity what feels good and how to move forward in relationship with that thing. And so I feel that integration is super important and learning integration is very important, especially because, we aren't taught the reverence of towards winter and we aren't taught the reverence towards darkness and towards reflection and towards stillness and towards contemplation and stagnancy and going slow and moving at the pace of the earth, the pace of nature. So I'd like to offer that. And I've also been learning that and really embodying and making my peace with the fact that we are just a unfolding life process that's ever changing. And so I'm learning how to love and have peace for the depressed, dysregulated, judgmental version of myself, just as much as the clear, exuberant, vibrant version of myself, because both have a function in the life process. And I am learning how to give space to those parts of myself, those versions of myself that once were really hard to love and really hard to accept, and I really felt that I needed to fix. And just allowing that version of me to like have its dance. You know, as Ram Dass says, bringing your neuroses in and having tea, because we don't give it power anymore. I'm in my power no matter what. You know, being in your power for me means being okay with anything that surfaces, any version of me that surfaces, and just being okay with it. And really like noticing and being curious with from where I'm thinking and from where I'm taking action. And a lot of times I do things imperfectly, and there's so much that I don't know, and there's like more information to be learned, and that's okay. You know, that doesn't mean that I am not deserving of love and respect and devotion no matter what. And that gives me so much more of an ability to show up in the world that way too. And to create change, we equip ourselves with the tools we need to navigate grief. And I believe this is what we need. This is how we need to educate ourselves in the awakening of the divine feminine, in the ability to connect to our hearts. You know, we need to be able to equip ourselves to handle our emotionality, to handle our grief. So cultivating the resources of community, healthy food that is accessible, affordable housing where people can feel safe, mental health support, systems that are created to serve life, not exploit it. And I believe this is our task. Truly, truly, I believe this is what my womb tells us we need to be working for. And I hold that vision, and I will keep on to that vision. And not just because I believe in it, but because I have been gifted that vision from something, an energy much higher than me, and that experience can never be taken away from me. This is my truth. This is what I have seen, because I have felt what this feels like in my body. And it feels really good to put it out into the world, because this has allowed me to appreciate life in so much subtlety and so much depth, and has helped me really know how to move from a place that is life-serving and to create my life and to make plans for my life so that I will be able to continue to spread this vibration and this energy and this mission of sharing life and gaining the resources and the courage to be able to look inside and to love what you see, to be able to look inside and to reach and receive the love that lives there for all of us, so that we may all be more free, more loved, and more empowered, and that we may feel the strength and have the space and the capacity enough to be able to care for other sentient life. Because I understand that if we're surviving and we feel that we lack and that we don't even have enough to care for ourselves, how could we ever have the capacity to care for anything else? And I understand that. So my question is, what do we need to do for ourselves? And not just individually, but in community. What do we need to do to be able to make ourselves feel more nourished, more held, more seen, more loved? How do we bring that, and ripple that into the community so that we will feel well and spacious enough? How do we create our lives so that we feel well and spacious enough to serve and to dedicate our lives to the mission of serving more life, of evolving as as society and as a world in a way that brings more love and connection and feeling back into our existence? This is the question. This is the question. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to have gifted this information and this way of thinking and being. And I would like to thank all of the people in my life that have gifted me so much wisdom, for the grandmothers that brought me into that moon lodge and thanked me for bleeding, for my elders and my ancestors and all of my friends and all the little angels on my path that have been God speaking to me. And I am grateful that I have had the capacity enough to receive it, to bring it into my system, and to integrate it in a way that's authentic. And I pray the same for you. I pray the same for you. May we all be free. What's that mantra? Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Hare Om Tat Sat. Much love.